Hey Faith Family, welcome to the Beyond Sunday podcast at Calvary Bible, where we go beyond the Sunday sermon to explore some rabbit holes and to bring some biblical truths to the surface. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Calvary Bible Church, welcome back to another episode Beyond Sunday. Thanks for being here. To you guys listening, watching, not to you, Randy.
Not to me.
Because you're not grateful. You're just not a grateful person. Not for my jokes.
Not today.
Are you ready for this? We're going to hit it fast.
Matthew?
Like hard and heavy. No.
Jokes. We're not going to do
right
the Bible?
Off the front. No, we don't. I don't even want small talk today.
Okay. All right.
I just want to get right into this joke.
Dive in.
It's one of our listeners. Where might you see the slogan, spreading the past to grow the future? Spreading the past to grow the future.
I would say right in my backfield, watching Brubaker treat that field.
Yeah, on a manure spreader.
Yeah.
Nice work.
Whoever gave it, thank you for giving me one.
Yes. Mrs. Pelton, you should be proud.
I just talked to her a few minutes ago on the phone, and I said, I'm headed in.
It's good.
Thanks to whoever that was.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah. Good work, everybody.
Boy, I do see that.
It's okay. Yeah, I know. That's kind of funny.
I actually showed my little grandson a video of that process with that newfangled way they're doing it here.
The pipes.
Yeah, with the multi, wide, several things down, and the tractor just goes along. It was pretty cool. I just showed him the video. Spreading
the manure.
Yep.
That's right. It's good stuff. It smells great. Beautiful thing.
Lancaster County, you get both. You get some of that, and then you get some of the
chocolate
from I forget. I think
it's Wilbur.
From Wilbur.
Yeah,
you get two distinct smells here in Mountjoy.
I love them both.
Me too.
All right, so we were in Matthew chapter 18.
Yes,
verses 1 through 6, mostly 1 through 4.
Yeah,
but 1 through 6 is where we read, and it's not a comment. I'm sorry, not a question, but it is a comment that came in. So I want to start off with that. It says, "I think that American individuality is not an asset to Christianity. Christianity, at its core, is not me and mine, but us and ours. It's not a mistake that the first church was not called the first church of, but it was called the way." And so I thought that was insightful and another, helpful comment, because we're talking about this desire in us to be the greatest, and it's interesting, the first church of, the second church of, whatever. And there's something inherent in us that you pointed out on Sunday to want to be first or the greatest or get ahead of everybody else. And that's not it's not the way that if humility isn't present, then we're not being Christ-like there. And so I thought that was
it's a good comment.
Insightful for Americans in particular, and in the 21st century, the just individuality that comes out all over the place, and how it creeps into our faith. So, would you like to comment on the comment?
That's a really good comment. My experience with students from all over the world through the years tells me that pride manifests itself differently in different countries and in different nationalities. And I certainly saw it, living 12 years in Canada, being an American, but living 12 years in Canada, we all have to deal with pride. It's inherent in all of us, but it takes different form. So I think that comment is very insightful.
Since we've railed on Americans, you want to rail on the Canadians for a moment? Or
I think what's fascinating is when I living over there and trying to learn just the mindset and thinking about the political scene and so forth. And so to think that, their country is founded on anti-revolution, our country founded on a revolution, and those two polar opposite which is redundant, but it's such opposite mindsets, but they each have pride affixed to it.
Okay.
So there's still, listening to Canadians talk about their politics there's some similarities to the way in which we talk about our politics, even though the mindsets are different for the two countries.
Yeah. It gets me to a comment that I was maybe going to make later. Well, actually, no, it was a personal comment, because you confessed your sins, the way pride comes out in you. And for me, one of the ways it comes out is not just the need to be right, but to let someone know that I'm right, or my way is right. Yeah. And so, kind of a pride in our country, right? In our country and its form of government, or the Canadians and their form of government. And it's like, no, our way is better. My ways, our way is the right way. And certainly we should take pride in our work and the way that we want whatever we've got our hands on to be the best that it can be. Yeah. But to not be prideful in a look down on you or others kind of way.
Or as you put it, or to lift yourself up in some way to make yourself look good. It's not enough to be right, but I'd love for somebody else to know that I am. Yeah. So that's I mean, pride is just an awful thing.
So the text on Sunday, you made an interesting point. I'm going to ask you to clarify. What's the difference between being great, how Jesus frames it, and the desire to be great? So I think where that question is coming from is early on in the sermon, you said God created us with a desire to be great, or did he create us to be great? And the last comment there is, wasn't that part of Satan's problem, his desire to be greater than God? So what's good and right about wanting to be great, and where does it cross a line for us? Because I think for many of us, we say, oh no, I shouldn't desire to be great. I should be the least of these. So there's quoting that text, the least of these, that's in Matthew. And that is like the flip side of what we're dealing with, which is interesting because I had that in my mind during the time too, but just don't know where to fit that in. But as far as from Sunday and now beyond Sunday, you want to make sure that you're trying to be great in the will of God, trying to be great for his reputation, trying to be great for him, try to be great with him. Because as I said on Sunday, you don't want to be the greatness problem where it's twisted. You use the one reference. I mean, a lot of Bible readers go back to that Old Testament text that describes Lucifer, Satan, when he fell from heaven. One of the prophetic looks, and if you're referring to that particular text, there's a prime example of someone being great, wanting to be great without God, or I would say again, as I put, what's so destructive about it, you're placing yourself higher than God. So there's the problem of it, and so this desire for, I believe that when God creates human beings in his own image, he's creating them with this status to be an image bearer and to be a vice regent, to have dominion over. The image of God quoted twice, or repeated twice, the dominion issue repeated twice in those few verses in the creation narrative. And so you have God creating us with this status. And so that's the pure form of we're meant to be that. So we're not meant to be something. We're not meant to be ruled over by anything other than God. I could start with that. For instance. Keep going. Is it okay to have a desire to be great as long as it's what God, within the boundaries of what God created us to do and be?
I'm going to be as careful as I can with this.
Yeah.
So when Jesus says, when the question comes to him, who is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven, and he actually answers it
later,
whoever humbles himself like this child, verse 4, is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven, then I'm going to say, yes, it is right for me to want to meet the condition of verse 4 so that I am the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. And again, because of the nuancing of his teaching, put that in air quotes, because you've got to get being the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. You have to get it. What does that mean? That doesn't mean that I'm above you, because everybody has the same status. Remember, I think what was important about this is, beyond Sunday, if you and I are practicing humility, like the child, then we are all in this. We're all meeting the criteria to be the greatest. So everyone's on the even playing field. It's not, no one's above one another in the kingdom at this point. And so, yes, according to verse 4, that is a good thing for me to say, I want to qualify as being one of the greatest in the kingdom of heaven because of humility. But you'll notice even saying that now changes the way in which we're thinking about being great. Humility. Look at how if I were to say to you, to us, how does our world think about humility and greatness?
Opposites.
Yeah, it's like if you're living in this world, so you know that humility is not the character trait of the great. That's sadly, that's not the case.
No, they don't normally go together. So yeah, I think where I'm a little fuzzy in my head is distinguishing, and you said you're trying to be careful with your words, the difference between being great, because God created us to be great. We were created in his image, and that is great. What's greater than that? I think you said. But then the desire to be greater than others?
No.
No bueno.
No. Mm-mm.
Right. And that's as I was thinking about the disciples too, I mean, they're steeped in a culture where, there's hierarchy, and you don't want to be at the bottom. You want to have some level of, power, authority, etc., over people who are beneath you in whatever tiered class system that you're in, and that's where their mind was. Correct.
Oh yeah, and I was, I thought, if you kind of boiled it down a little bit, what was that? There was an old song, an old Christian song going way back, quoting scripture. That song quotes scripture. I'm sure it's an Old Testament text, I think. But if you're going to be great in the kingdom of heaven, you have to be humble. You have to be humble on earth. So as long as I keep that in mind, beyond Sunday, I'm just thinking about today when I got up, was I taking my rightful place before God? And I will confess to you all, this morning was one of those where I did. I got up, I quickly, as soon as I was regaining consciousness, quickly spoke with God, prepared myself to enter the day for his glory. And so take that place. From that moment on, this would be where the schizophrenia would come into play, which is not real. But this is what it seems like. Can you imagine if beyond Sunday now, it was Tuesday morning, I get up and I take my rightful place before God and say, God, I'm your servant. What can I do today to advance your cause? Advancing his kingdom, one of our, our thing. But can you imagine how, it's not even disjointed, it's not even the word. I don't even know what the word would be. But at that moment, if my first interaction with Michelle was, I was arrogant toward her. Can you imagine what just happened to me? So this is why, when you think about, this week trying to be greatest in the kingdom, humility means I take my rightful place before God, but that also means that I have a right assessment of myself with respect to you and others. And so I didn't get to this on Sunday. You have a bunch of stuff you can think through. And when I was looking at, I sort of glanced down in the moment there and saw Eric Hussar. And it reminded me of that picture in that frame that I saw in the window in Boston. But I could have said something like this too. Humility is not thinking less of yourself. That's not what humility is.
Right.
God doesn't want you to think less of who you are. You have tremendous value. And so God wants you to have an accurate assessment of who you are with respect to him and others. So someone put it this way, it's not thinking less of yourself, it's thinking of yourself less. So if I take myself out of the equation more and more and more in our environment, now we have the opportunity to make more and more of God.
Yeah.
And I like that. If someone said to me, do you want to be known as a great preacher? My first instinct is no, I don't. But what if I thought, oh, okay, let me back up. If being a great preacher brings God honor, yeah, I want to be that. But notice the carefulness of, I don't want to move into any realm of the opposite of humility.
Yeah.
Not this week.
No.
A couple of times on Sunday at Karen's share, things were being said and someone at the table said, we don't want to go there today. We don't want to go, we were kind of joking about, humility is it's a big deal.
Yeah. And that's helpful clarification. And, Paul says in Colossians, whatever you do in word or deed, do it all in the name of the Lord Jesus. So, I forget who said it, but whether you're a pastor or a shoemaker, like we want Christians to be the best at what they do and not for their sake, but for God's glory.
For sure.
Now, speaking of like people in positions of authority, whether that's a boss or a parent versus a child, how does humility work for someone in those greater than positions? If I'm supposed to, stay humble, but yet I'm in a position where, I'm in charge here,
Yeah. I think one of the ways it functions for me personally is the responsibility of the sheer responsibility of caring for souls the way we do is frightening. That responsibility is humbling as opposed to inciting pride. So whenever it hits me, it is a humbling thought. And so I think that's one way for leadership of any kind to think about humility is the responsibility before God is so great. That's humbling. So there's a lot of quotes back in the day about what preachers have said about such things, and so that's one of the other way though is if you and I are spirit, if we're humble because of the Spirit, if the Spirit of God is creating any measure of humility in us, that character is going to affect the way in which we lead. So I would say that's the second thing beyond the responsibility and the accountability that's coming is the sense of you can lead with humility and still be a good leader. So you have, for instance, the courage to lead at times when you must. And we've both faced these scenarios where in order to lead, we've had to make a tough decision, we've had to have a tough conversation. You have the courage to do that. And that's not because you're being prideful. That's because you're doing your job. Humbly, you're doing your job. But remember, the character trait is such that you're not leading, even in the worst of examples, you're not leading and looking down on the other person. You're leading, loving the other person, trying to support the other person, or not in our context. And I'm sure in the business context, it could be in a non-Christian world, but for us, it's, and I am concerned about this church as a whole. So all of that, I think all of that, those character issues that come in with spirit-driven humility or spirit-created humility help us to do our leading in such a way that brings God glory. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean the leadership is always going to be accepted. It doesn't mean it's always going to work. We're in a badly broken world.
Yeah.
We're not perfect, all of that.
No. But we're following the example of the gospel in that leadership through humility, by just following Christ, what he did. He led through humility. He washed the disciples' feet. He went to the cross.
And the Apostle Paul, another great example of someone who had every right to look down on others because of his incredible resume.
Yeah.
Except for the one fact that he was killing Christians for a while. But prior to that, prior to his conversion, he's got an amazing resume where he would easily have the temptation to look down on folks who didn't share that resume.
Yeah. That's helpful conversation, though, and clarification, too. So when we are in positions of authority, whatever that is, even something as, I'll say as common as being a parent, the responsibility and the weight and accountability that comes with a life, that is humbling. So as a parent, to say, I have God's given me the responsibility to lead this child in a way that's pleasing to him. That's a humbling, thing to think about. There's a life that's under your care, and in a really, close way. So that should humble us and not cause us to, throw our weight around necessarily. We still, as parents, have, we have to be a parent. Yeah. But that's a humbling thing.
And in this text in particular that we studied Sunday and that we're looking at again this coming Sunday, all of this discussion about children and their value should really speak to us parents. Humility must be a part of the home because of the value of the child. And that's fighting against the instinct of a parent to say, I'm the adult. I know what's right. I know way more than the parent, than the child, and on and on and on. You're always here, up here. And the child is always way down there. But again, this text drives home the importance of humility like few others.
This isn't probably the time or place to go into it, but our context is probably very different than Jesus is here. Like, we often, I think, in our society and culture, elevate children to a level they probably shouldn't be elevated to. We give them a little bit too much authority, freedom, preference. And I think in doing so, we relegate our responsibility and pass it off because we're not intentional, or we're just lazy, or we're distracted, or whatever it might be. But children in our society, I think the word I saw that stuck with me is kindergarchy. We allow children to rule and not the adult. So there's a way to do that. But anyway, I said I wouldn't go there, but we went there.
You can do it because you run this thing.
Yep.
I'll tell you what's interesting, though. If you talk to some of the older ones, let's say 2 generations or a generation at least, but maybe 2, talk to them about the way children were treated back in the day. And I forget the one that...
Seen, not heard.
That one. Yeah. So, but that's, back in that day, it was, children had their place.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a right way to do that.
Oh, yeah.
There's a right way to lead your children by being the authority, but also humbly doing so, not pridefully.
Yeah, for sure.
Last comment from me, I'll let you add on to it if you'd like, but I mentioned it just because it came up in my devotional reading this morning. Just talked about how God opposes the proud and gives grace to the humble. And one subtle way that pride comes out is a prayerless life or prayerlessness. And so to be in prayer is a reminder to ourselves that we submit ourselves to God. We are falling under His headship, His fathership, and we need Him. We need to depend, as you said on Sunday, we need to depend on Him. And prayer is a dependence on God. And when we find ourselves not praying, that's probably a subtle sign that, we're in control. We've got this. We can make this happen. And that's a lie that we're believing. So any other ways that you see subtly or not subtly pride coming at our people?
I think I mentioned it on Sunday, put it out to you watching or listening. I think that key moment here in the teaching in verse 3, unless you turn. So just keep thinking about how you're turning, how you're changing from the adult mindset, I can do this by myself, to the turning of the mindset, turning into the mindset, transformed into the mindset of, oh, Lord, I need you to help me change whatever that is. And that's, I think, probably one of the most important things, especially in this context, because what we're about to think about in chapter 18, and you preached on this section in 2 weeks from now, that section. So, you preached on this, the church discipline, kind of that text in Matthew 18. So, we're headed into a section that is all about rescuing people that have gone astray because they're valuable. The little child wasn't thought to be valuable, but is very valuable. And so we cannot be the ones that cause those little ones to sin, because it's not God's will that they perish. And this whole section is headed into that. Rescue people that are in sin, they need to come back. So beyond Sunday, just keep thinking about the turning. Are you changing? If you're not changing, as I said on Sunday, it's an easy formula. And you quoted the James text, which, boy, I had on my mind a lot. And it just kept myself from doing it on purpose because of the time frame. But God resists the proud, gives grace to the humble. So if there's any sense that there's a stagnancy or stuckness, if there's any sense of that, just mark it down. It's pride is in the way. And so this humility in this text, unless you turn and become like children, or whoever humbles himself like this child is the greatest in the kingdom, that's the way any advancement is made in the Christian life. It's a pretty big deal. I mean, for any of our thoughts of progressing in Christ likeness beyond Sunday.
Yeah. So the next time you see a toddler, don't look down on them. Look up to them. They're teaching us a lot about how we should be.
Yeah.
Do you think Toys R Us had it right, back in the day? I don't want to grow up. I'm a Toys R Us kid.
I think they had some things right. I don't know where they went wrong, but they had some things right, because I know that store that used to be right off from 30 in Lancaster is not there anymore.
No longer.
I don't know what they did.
No longer. Yeah.
They did what I guess Sears and Roebuck did.
Yeah.
Or didn't do.
Yeah. It happens. Okay.
We'd have to create an economics podcast.
Yeah. Beyond Wednesday. Okay. Hey, love you guys. Thanks for tuning in. Send your questions to podcast@cbcmj.com. Send your emails with jokes just directly to me. Don't give him any insight.
Thank you.
Okay. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And yeah, see you on Sunday. Thanks again for joining us on today's episode. And remember, our Sunday sermons are meant to lead us to a life of worship beyond Sunday.